Alright, what's up you guys? It's JCARDENASART, and in this video I'll be painting Deadpool versus Wolverine on a skateboard using acrylic paint. I know you usually see me in the beginning of the videos for the intro, but I couldn't get an intro done in time. I do kind of like this approach of the video though. I like that it's just straight to the artwork. I might try it again in the future videos, we'll see. Anyway, first things first is sketching. Loose sketch, just straight to the point, just to get the composition down, kind of figure out where everything's going to be. No details needed in the sketch. At least I don't do that, but if you prefer to do so, you definitely can. I know artists that draw everything out at first, then they lay down a clear coat of gesso like I'm doing now, and that preps the surface to paint on top, and then they paint in like specific sections according to the details, and they go based off of that. If you do that way, that's totally okay, whatever works for you. Once the surface is prepped, the next stage is to block in with basic colors. We already know what colors Wolverine and Deadpool are, so I'm going to stick to the background and start off there. And I'm going to use a bright blue, like a light blue for the background. And I get this mixture from mixing phthalo blue with a little bit of titanium white. We put down some red and black for Deadpool, some yellow and black for Wolverine. Once the blocking is done, the next step is to enhance the colors and composition by adding in lighter and darker shapes to help form any, for example, any curves or sharpen up any edges. On Wolverine's suit, for example, I used black as the main blocking in color, but I actually want it blue now. So I'm switching over to a very dark blue and using light blues for the highlights, and then slowly adding in all of the middle shades as I progress. That's what I mean by adding variety of shades and colors, kind of just changing. This is where it starts to change. For the yellow in the suit, I get as light as I possibly can, but without going white. I'm not trying to go white, so I go as nice as I can. And as for the shadow in the yellows, the darker areas, I go as close as possible to brown, but not brown. It's more of like a dark mustard kind of color. I don't want to get brown because it's going to be too dark. And then, for example, it's going to blend into the beard. The gray blob next to Wolverine's face is actually Deadpool's weapon. And the one next to Deadpool's face is Wolverine's weapons, the claws. Those are going to be a variety of grays. And I'm gonna have to work those grays in just enough so that anybody looking at it knows exactly what it is. It's like, okay, cool, that's Deadpool's weapon, or those are the claws, or and so on. For Deadpool, same approach, different shades, light to dark, adding in all the highlights and shadows as much as I can, anything to really define the character. So the reds are a bit tricky though, because if you want to get light, there's two different ways you can get there. You can add a little bit of white, and then that will make the red closer to pink, and that could be an issue. Or you can add yellow and then, you know, a tad bit white, and then that will get it close to orange, and it'll throw it into the yellows. So it's a little weird, and in my opinion, the orange and yellow kind of like overpowers the red, and then in this case the red just kind of like fades away, and I don't want that to happen with Deadpool's character, especially since, you know, his outfit is red and not orange or yellow. The approach I'm going to take instead is working in the dark first. I'm going to keep the main red that I want, and I'm just going to go darker. Go as dark as I possibly can without making it disappear. And then, you know, work in those middle shades. And then I'll decide on the highlights later. I might take the orange route, but not too orange, just very subtle. For the details on Deadpool's sword handle, those really thin lines, I used a long, small, round brush, and I used the very tip of it to get those thin brush strokes, because paint marker wasn't going to be thin enough, and I wasn't going to use a pen or a marker or anything like that. For Deadpool's weapon, next to Wolverine, I wanted it to look like it was fired, causing damage to Wolverine's shoulder, hence the big blob on his shoulder, and I wanted to catch that by implying there's smoke coming out of it. For Deadpool, I mostly just had to lay down shapes and kind of angle them properly and add those highlights or shadows properly so that it implies that there's something under there. For example, like a nose or an ear or a cheekbone or whatever. With the Wolverine, half his face is showing, so I have to show, you know, what a nose would look like, or lips, or his beard, for example, his jaw, and so on. His beard was very challenging because I had to show that he had hair, but the thing is that he didn't have like a full grown beard going on. He had a close to skin kind of rough looking, and it had to look scruffy and it had to look short. So I had to show with shadows and highlights on his face of where it was gonna get darker, like close to the neck, for example, under the chin, and then I would get lighter the closer I get to the cheekbones and the nose. When I felt like I had it looking good enough, I took my chances and went to the next step and added in little hair-like brushstrokes. So I did that by taking a really small thin brush and adding these little hair-like brushstrokes and going with the flow of his face. And as the brush had less and less paint on it, those brush strokes that had less paint, I used that on the areas that were the lightest, for example on closer to the cheekbone and such, to show that there was less hair in that area. It was tough, but I think I got it. For those of you interested, I do have affiliate links in the description to all of my favorite art materials, including the ones I used in this video, so make sure you go check that out. I had a lot of fun making this board. Now the only thing left to do here is just putting those final details and of course my signature with a Posca paint marker, and that's about it. I appreciate you guys for watching my video. It means a lot. Stay tuned for those final shots and I'll see you guys soon.